Welcome everyone to our channel, the first one about cryptocurrencies. Today we wanted to introduce you to our latest tool that we've been working on. This is additionally another advanced step, so to speak, in the analysis of smart contracts. The tool is called Project Potential Index. So in short, we're simply trying to determine the potential of a project. This is also quite important information. At the moment, we are still finishing up the testing of this tool. We still have some comments, some shortcomings. In the near future, it should appear here on our platform so that you can simply use this tool and the new analyzer. Today I will show you how it works and outline the direction we would like it to go. And in the second part of the video, we'll look at 3 interesting cases that we managed to find on the Ethereum blockchain. We'll analyze them here with our tool, and I'll show you how it works in practice. How does artificial intelligence work? How does it affect the evaluation of contracts? And why is it our, so to speak, secret weapon? Here, so to speak, is our secret weapon. Of course, I encourage you to follow the channel on YouTube and on X, so you can stay up to date with us. On YouTube, we've uploaded a really interesting, excellent video, even someone who is a complete beginner in the crypto world. I think that after watching this video, you'll be able to buy your first crypto, your first Ethereum, and so to speak, invest in those projects that they find interesting. Alright, so let's get started. In the past 2 days, we've received 3 such alerts, meaning 3 contracts that have a rating above 7.4. Of course, as I mentioned in previous videos, we're looking for contracts that have a rating of at least above 8, that's 1, and for which our AI doesn't raise any objections. So that's the first step in evaluating this contract. Of course, the second step is to log in here to our platform, ProjectAntyScam.com, and there paste and analyze these contracts. And I'll do that now with you using these 3 cases. I think this shouldn't take us long. Here we have double authentication, absolutely for security. We'll eliminate this. I think next week, if we have everything completely finalized, it might appear. That possibility doesn't have to exist, so if you have double login for now, we guarantee that everything will be fine with this work. Alright, let's see. Here we have an interesting contract, a contract that received a price of 7 to 4. There aren't any typical risks here. We've ruled out suspicious ETH flows, unusual financial functions, and high taxes. So overall, without going into details, it's fairly okay here. The contract is relatively clean, but what makes us think is that the AI tightened the rating based on its similarity to known risky patterns. And now on our server, we already have the latest implementation of our analyzer, which one here. Here, it will appear in the AI no later than tomorrow, possibly the day after tomorrow, simply so that the ratings are identical. But here, if you have such a condition, the AI handles it well. This is simply translating what the AI detected into an error code. So now I'll show you practically. So this contract should receive the same rating as here. Let's paste it in. Or a rating of 7.99. Well, because we're trying to be a bit gentle here with it. With the AI, this artificial intelligence, we're putting a gentle leash on it because it's starting to live its own life. And now we already have entered. This is a threat detected by our artificial intelligence. This is from yesterday, so everything is up to date. December 11th at 3:11 p.m. So even though our artificial intelligence didn't have this new threat implemented, the one that the scammers simply used in their contract, it still reported that something was wrong. Something wasn't right with that contract. When we analyzed it manually, we detected it. A new type of threat which has now been implemented here in our function. So let's give it, for us, a score of 3 simply means it's a scam result. And as you can see, this contract no longer has any liquidity. Of course, if we had analyzed it here, even without those fixes, we would have had various types of warnings here. As you can see, there are currently 36 holders on Etherscan, so it's a small project, extremely early in its phase. There's not really a high level of centralization, but as a result of this, the threats that were implemented in this code, as you can see, the liquidity was completely removed. And the scammer simply took all the money from the people who invested in his product. Here, with our shield, even though the latest threat hadn't been implemented yet, these threats really emerge on a weekly basis. Dozens of them, so we constantly have to think on our feet all the time, but we have our card, our ace up the sleeve, that even if they try in some clever artificial way to bypass this code, because as we know, code is code, you have certain limitations, but there are various creative ways to get around them. So even if something slips through here, our artificial intelligence will still catch it, and there are more and more such cases. It's not like this is some one-off case, so it happens here quite often. As I mentioned, we've already been working together for over a year on this project, so we've already analyzed these patterns, these behaviors. And it just works, so here you have a perfect example of how our artificial intelligence further intervenes in the evaluation of this contract. Alright, let's take a look at the next contract. Of course, we don't invest in any projects where the contracts have AI. For us, these are total scams, complete frauds, and as you can see, we were right here. Next contract. Here we also have a no-go rating, a score of 3. We already had this rating even before those patches. I also left this here specifically for the purpose of this video. I wanted to record a video to show you practically how it works. So we are also protected. We also analyze these codes. And we still have our ace up our sleeve here, which is this artificial intelligence that simply works. As you can see from these examples, it just works. Once again, the same mechanism that was in the previous example has been detected. Here it's already implemented, so of course you should use it as a complete solution. This is our entire ecosystem here. Cease Aurora. Anti-scam, so you can associate it here. I'm also far from suggesting that you should invest any funds if anything pops up for you, or if we find anything here. You should simply observe, just watch this contract, which we will inform you about here. We've simply filtered out for you from the hundreds of contracts currently being created on the blockchain. You simply don't have to deal with it. With analyzing 200, 300, or 500 contracts. Just focus on the few that we have selected. That's the purpose of this tool. Getting back, here we have the possibility that if there's a threat in the account, but we detect something suspicious, then our artificial intelligence will notify you. I think I've more or less explained how it works. Now I'll show you something we're currently working on. For the purposes of this video, I've isolated a folder. What do we want to do? Something like this, meaning you'll be able to predict the potential of the project. From our perspective, this seems like a very important identifier. An identifier, as you might call it. And simply, based on known patterns, I'll show you in a moment how it works in a nutshell. We analyze step by step how it looks. Okay, so first I'll show you what this should look like for some good, I don't know, this Chilinka. Let's take this Shiba Inu. We find this Chilink all the time. It's in second place, so it appears here often. And now, if we paste in any, of course, this is still in the testing phase and we're just working on implementing all of this. So if we paste in any product, contract address, it will take a bit, but in short, you'll see, I'll explain each bar that appears here to you in a moment. So we're analyzing this code here. We're still working on optimization. It's all still ongoing, and that's exactly what interests us. You'll get the chart like this. This will, of course, be implemented on our website in ProjectAntyScam. I don't know, somewhere up here, you'll see a little chart like this appear. And now, what exactly do we have here on this particular chart? On this chart, we have several bars. The first bars are SO. So let's start from the beginning. This is simply the score that our analyzer assigns to the code's cleanliness. So it's basically something like what you have here. A pure analysis of this contract in terms of code cleanliness. So that's the first bar. Then we have share, meaning who holds the power. That's what we're checking here. Whale monsters. If the share is high, it means the tokens are in the hands of the community, not a single player who could dump on you at any moment. The overall price. So yes, if we simply and carefully browse through these various wallets that we are meticulously analyzing here, if we observe a very high concentration, for example, if a particular project had an overwhelming 95% concentration on a single solitary address, then that specific bar would simply be at 5%. Let's assume that, just for now. Of course, it's not exactly one-to-one, but just so you understand what I mean. So in general, the higher the bars, the better for the project. That is, for the potential we see in this project overall. The next bar is fame. It's like this. We measure, well, fame is actually a good term. We measure the buzz that a project generates online. So we analyze YouTube, we analyze Twitter, we analyze Google. We look at how much. So you could say we measure the temperature, the hype of the project. And our sophisticated indicator here also diligently listens for any potential slander or negative sentiment. So if we happen to observe that specifically around this particular contract, numerous individuals are actively posting comments like a scam or other similar derogatory remarks, then don't invest, and various other negative indicators. Of course, it's clear that these could be some undesirable actions from the competition. So here in this noise, we try to catch things like that and present them to you. So that's the next bar. Then we have cash, meaning liquidity. Here we simply measure what kind of liquidity has been provided to this project. Of course, the bigger the bar, the greater the liquidity, so the contract is safer. Here we analyze the market depth, looking for digital locks on liquidity. High cash is a guarantee that the developer won't run off with the money, because as you know, the greater the liquidity, the harder it is. Well, that's a bit of a simplification, of course, but in short, cash means liquidity. You can just keep that in mind. The next pillar is work, which means we separate Idema projects from real builders. Our AI, our models here, scan the web in search of things like white papers, various types of audits, and different kinds of roadmaps. And if we manage to find something like that, we simply provide it. Let's make this bar bigger here, because obviously scams don't have these things, since scams are made quickly, written simply, and no one bothers to record a video on YouTube. However, that fame can sometimes be spread by various types of bots, which is why we try to catch that wherever possible. Later in the video, I'll show you what these bars look like for those typical scams. For now, I'll finish explaining to you how all of this works. The next bar, here we have users, which is the user base. So the more holders there are, the more decentralized the project is, so to speak. The holding of these tokens is more diluted, which makes it safer for the project itself. So the more diluted and the more holders there are, the higher this bar will be, of course. The next bar is time. Here we have an example. Shiba has been on the market for over 5 years. Here we also have some various kinds of doubts. It's not a black and white situation either. It's not binary. Can't a good project with potential be on the market for only a short time? We've only been on the market for a short time, but obviously we don't launch tokens. But if we were to launch tokens, that's what we would do. We'd make a few videos about it. We would meticulously make a comprehensive roadmap, then create a detailed whitelist. Following that, we would record some engaging videos, build a small dedicated community, and finally, gauge the overall interest. I think that everyone can answer this case for themselves individually. Of course, from our point of view, the longer the time, the bigger the project is on the market. Obviously, that bar is higher, so that's time. The next two bars represent volume, meaning the size of the volume. Of course, for now, since we're operating on DEXs, we analyze the volume here on DEXs. Here, in such a project, because we also have Shiba Inu here, I suspect that on other exchanges, the volume is much higher than on DEX. But as I said, we're interested in decentralized exchanges. For us, it's about crypto time on decentralized platforms. It really just ended. And the last bar is the trend. This is momentum. It's like we're catching the trend, meaning we analyze recent price movements and detect so-called pump and dump schemes, but of course in a very, very general way. What interests us here is, for example, if the price has increased in the recent period, right? So I don't know whether it went up by 10% or dropped by 20%. This is generally the trend that, so to speak, this project is following at the moment when we conducted this analysis, right? So we have these here, 9 bars, right? If I'm counting correctly here. So we have these 9 bars, and that's what we want to provide you with. This will be our next step here, the next ace up our sleeve in this project. So now, when you analyze this project, apart from the fact that you get storing our recommendation, you will get liquidity, you will be able to analyze the current holders. You will analyze the financing here based on our project databases. In this case, I don't see anything concerning here. And you will also get a tool that will allow you to predict the project's potential, right? Of course, we're still refining it, right? We also want to implement something like an assessment of the usefulness of the project that's being developed. But like I said, all these tests will ultimately take place here on our website. So I think we'll share with you what we have once we're satisfied with it to some extent. And we'll just keep analyzing it ourselves further, right? So for now, I'll quickly show you how it looks. Let's take this one already. The third link, this Leo mantle. Let's take Uniswap. I'll quickly show you how they should look and what still doesn't fit for us here. Charts of good projects on our bar chart here. So let's take this one. Of course, I more or less know already because we've tested all of this, so I have a general idea. I know where we might have some doubts here. Alright, let's put it in here. We'll run an analysis of this project. It takes a moment. We're still working on optimization here, but unfortunately, since we're trying to search, so to speak, the whole internet, or at least what interests us the most, and here we have these 2 bars, here in cash, meaning liquidity. Here, I suspect that maybe there's not much liquidity on Dextrous, and that's probably why the volume on Dextrous is so low, and the trend is also like that. Not very big, right? But in short, as you can see, the result here, the centralization of this project, fame, work, basically everything that's there, done, the users and the time, which just shows that this is simply a very good project. And here, like I said, we're also working on DEX exchanges, and we'll try to somehow get these bars so as not to penalize those projects that don't focus mainly on DEXs. Obviously, everyone tries to invest in the main exchanges, as I'm saying here about the projects that I managed to get into, but that's more or less how it looks here. I'm showing you what else we need to improve here, how it's going to look. Let's take Mantle, the next project. Now let's run it through our analysis here. To measure the project's potential, for now it's a work in progress. Of course, we'll be refining it. We'll see how to do it. This is the scam warning I was telling you about. Here we have a really nice chart. This is more or less what the chart of a good, healthy project should look like, so that's the kind of thing we want to detect here as well. Alright, let's also add Uniswap here so we don't drag this out too long. I'll also show you what scams look like, so you have a comparison. Even at this stage where the tool is now, it's already working satisfactorily. As I mentioned, that we still have a few things to fix and fine-tune, but it's already looking pretty good. We're happy with the results here, and the chart is also really nice. And now we'll quickly run through these scams as well, just so we don't drag things out any longer than necessary. Scams, of course, because after a moment, as soon as liquidity was added for us, either it disappears right away, or after an hour, or after 2, but in any case, those tokens are already completely worthless. 227%, but there wasn't really any liquidity here either. Alright, so what does such a scam look like at this moment in our tool? Let's take a look at it. This is it, right? Yes, exactly. And now you can clearly see an example of a bar, right? It's just storing pure code. There's nothing else in it, right? Alright, let's take the next one. This one. But you see something here, right? How does it look again? Again, a project. That's a total scam. Now let's take this one. Enneagram Tech. I just detached it so you could get an idea of what actually happened. 1,408%, right? These are, as I said before, percentages that exist only on paper. Alright, and in this case, here the code is clean, the share is fairly honest, meaning one guy doesn't hold a large concentration of these tokens. And here fame, this is what's disturbing about these scams, that some of them simply have fame. That is, they show up somewhere. Bots are bought. There are all kinds of promoters, meaning posts start appearing. And this fame, in the case of scams, can simply be huge. Here to work we have a lot, but what interests us, Casa is completely gone now. Here we have 0, time. So the volume is actually quite significant for this, and the trend is quite strong. Here, we will also try, in the case of such ambitious scams that have some kind of financial backing and make a lot of noise online, to catch them more effectively. This is one problem that we're still trying to tackle and eliminate. Because there should be some distinction here between fame and hype, so to speak, here. Apparently there were some roadmaps prepared, so it's quite a well-organized scam, although still a scam. If we were to put this somewhere into our... Is there anything else we could do here, or... Of course, this is already an analysis after the fact, as I mentioned, that the analysis... But if we were to put it this way, for us it's a total scam, a no-go. And as you can see, our artificial intelligence has already detected all the threats in this code. And the AI also doesn't recommend it, so we caught it much earlier, before those people even... They got caught, and each of us, each of our active subscribers, also has this capability. Alright, let's add this last one, which was, I think, this one, so let's add it as well. Let's see how this scam chart will look here. We'll wait a moment for the analysis, so as I said, it's all about the comprehensiveness of the tools, meaning analyzing everything, which I keep trying to tell you, and as you can see, this is what the chart looks like. A complete scam. There's a difference compared to the chart of a good project like the ones we looked at in the beginning. So that's what we want to show you here. On the left, you have the chart of a scam. On the right, the chart of a good, well-established project. So as I said, our goal is to warn you from something like this, and I think that at this point you're already very well protected, so I just encourage you to purchase a subscription here. Here we operate on a subscription system, so all you need to do, right now the price is 70 to 79 Polish zloty per month. You have a 3-day trial period, so you can easily test it out for yourself. It might happen that while you're working, something will start floating here, meaning that some icons might shift, or some fields might be in a different place than they were here. Well, we're just constantly making these fixes on an ongoing basis. We do this on our private server. We try, when we push it to production, to make sure it's already stable, but various issues still happen because unfortunately the project is very advanced, so it's getting more and more complicated. And here, despite our best intentions, sometimes something goes wrong, but of course we fix it, right? So these inconveniences will last a day, maybe 2, at most 3. Of course, we also have 3 language versions. Here we have Polish, English, and Chinese. We're trying to go more global. Alright, so that's it for now. This was a quick presentation of what we're currently working on for you. And we encourage you to subscribe, to get in touch, to follow us, to keep an eye on us, and keep your fingers crossed for us, okay? Thank you for all kinds of support, right? Yeah. So greetings, see you, take care, bye.